Okay, first, how true is the character to the real person, Jordan?
You're the best person.
Was I asked that?
Yeah.
I spent I've been talking about this project with him for 6 years, and I had numerous conversations with him, and he was, it's interesting because as much as he wanted to portray himself in the book, there's also an element of, okay, this is my life story. So when it got down to the end of how we're going to portray this person, I said, look, how we're going to portray himself. I said, look, we're going to tell the truth. We're going to talk about what you're doing right now. The cell is still on. He went off and continued to do, almost like Tony Robbins business seminars around the world on the idea of how to sell to customers with morality and integrity, considering what he's been through in his life and the mistakes that he's made. But look, I didn't want to do a direct imitation of him, but I feel like I did the best job that I could with capturing the essence of who I felt that he was. That's really the best way I can answer it. And so much of the acute detail of the events of his life and him, mentally putting me back into the room of the scenes. I check up with him every weekend, and in a way, Marty wanted me to be the buffer zone because he didn't want to communicate really directly with him. He wanted to be able to have a distance from the subject matter. So I'd be sort of the messenger of information on a constant basis about, what next week's scene would be like. And, those little minute details that I think went really directly up on screen. I mean, most of the conversations I had with him, a lot of that information got infused directly into the movie.
I mean, you look at this movie and you can't believe it happened. You can't believe this guy lived that kind of life. Did you have his cooperation throughout the film, Jordan Belfort?
Yeah, we had his full cooperation. What was fascinating about doing a movie about Jordan Belfort was not only was he so candid in his novel about an incredibly embarrassing time period of his life, but you meet him in person and he looks at this as a part of the past. So oftentimes, and I met with him for months beforehand, I would say, was it really like this? Describe to me that day in great detail. He says, not only was it like this, it was even worse, and I'm going to tell you why. So a lot of that got infused, I feel like, into the producing process, because on many occasions I'd come in the day before and say, we need a chimpanzee in diapers on roller skates, handing out ticket stubs. Can we make that happen? And everyone would kind of look at me and go,
and you would say it just like that. Can we make that happen?
Casting call for midgets that want to be like...
it was like that. It was chaos a lot of the times.
Casting Jonah was probably a very good signal that this movie wasn't just going to be a drama about Wall Street. So having him in the movie just added the comedic elements, and having him and Jonah riff off each other on set, improvising. I mean, Jonah's a naturally funny guy, so having these two guys kind of riffing off each other, it's pretty much what you saw on screen. There wasn't much to go on in terms of rehearsals. I mean, Leo probably have a different view on it, but it was very natural and organic.
To talk about Ellen, yeah, she did an unbelievable job. There was the lineup that they had in this film was one of incredibly talented improvisational actors that could go off on tangents. And I remember seeing the documentary on the King of Comedy, which I thought was a good sort of template for what this film was going to be, a dark sort of, insane journey. And we improvised a tremendous amount beforehand with all the actors. And then Marty would kind of restructure the scenes, and then we'd go in again on the day and then tear that entire scene apart and, go off in 20 other directions. But it was really... it was really, and an editing nightmare, I think, for for Marty and Thelma, because they had hours and hours and hours and hours of improv that they needed to sort of distill down to these little, gems of moments. And as far as Jonah Hill's concerned, yeah, I met him in Mexico, and he basically said to me, I know people like this. I know what these people represent in the culture. I've met people like this, and there's nobody on earth that should play this character except for me. I'm the man for this job. And I said, no, I hear you. He's like, no, you don't understand. This is my favorite script I have ever read in my life, and I'm destined to play this. So I immediately called Marty. I said, there's an actor out there that, really feels like they're the person for the job. But I think Marty met him a week later, and I heard it was one of the best meetings he'd ever had with an actor, and hired him kind of on the spot. And in a lot of ways, Jonah Hill set the tone for this film, I think. He really is one of the most unbelievably talented improvisational actors I've ever gotten the opportunity to work with, and took scenes in directions that we never even thought possible.
I think about Martin Scorsese. He's 71 years old. He's directing like he's 35. I mean, he's really in the prime of his career, in my opinion, right now. I mean, a movie like this, with this level of energy, with this level of excitement, you don't really see from directors that age. What is it, Leo? You've worked with him 5 times. What is it?
I mean, Emma, you know as well, the man lives and breathes cinema. And, if I would answer that question in all honesty, I would say it's because he's such an immense fan of film and filmmakers. And I think that, he always talks about him as this young man, with asthma, with his father, watching film after film after film in a contained environment of the theater. And I think that ultimately, the drive to try to do something as great as all these people that he's admired for decades and decades, and he looks at this as the great modern art form. He's always trying to achieve doing something as good as what they did, and his thirst is almost never quenched. He's constantly trying to challenge himself and push the boundaries. He's the man is a dynamo. He's amazing. What I love most about working with him is those things that just happen kind of accidentally, and we never really know what we're doing when we go. We prepare immensely for projects, but it's a discovery process with him. He's looking for something in the actors. He's looking for something in the environment that kind of speaks to him, and that ultimately shapes the course of what the plot and what the film is as a whole. He's completely open to everything, and it's almost like most of the time plot is irrelevant to him. He's trying to capture something in human behavior, and it's always a new journey for him. He's he's Martin Scorsese. What are you going to say?